Okay, it is 7:30, so we will call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia City Council for Monday, May 17th, 2021. And I would ask that you all please rise for a brief invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, as we move forth toward the center part of the year, I am ever mindful of the many challenges that this body has before it. We have a lot of things that are on the doorstep. We have a lot of things that we wish we could accomplish, and we have some needs that we must accomplish. And we are very, very blessed and fortunate in the Batavia community to have the city council we now have and have had, who is here to do what they feel in each of their own hearts and minds is in the very best interest of the community. And for that, I like to proudly say that Batavia has good government. So tonight, as always, we want to remember those from our community who are serving on foreign soil in defense of the liberties of the United States of America. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered upon each one of these men and women as they go about their vital mission. We also ask for vision and understanding and conversation about the items on the agenda, knowing that each alderman is here to vote what they feel is in the best interest of our community. As always, we want to remember those in the community who are suffering from some illness or problem, and so we just ask that blessings be showered upon them and all those around them. And we also want to just ask for conscious conversation and consideration as we discuss the items above us. We ask for all these blessings. Amen. Alderman Beck, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Miller,
Here.
Rosado,
Here.
Beck,
Here.
Knopf,
Here.
Chanzit,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Solfa,
Here.
Barron,
Here.
Lehman,
Here.
Ayazi,
Here.
Malay,
Here.
Ewer,
Here.
Cerrone,
Here.
Vogelsinger.
Here.
So we have all 14 members of the city council present and accounted for. So we thank everybody for participating tonight. Item 4 is a reminder, if you're going to speak, please speak into the microphone that's at your availability, whether you're on the computer or you're here in the room, because this is all being recorded and broadcast on BATV and will be repeated a number of times over the next couple of weeks. So we want to make sure that everybody has a clear voice and they're easily understood. And sometimes the masks make it a little bit difficult, so if you're going to speak, maybe I would encourage you to just kind of pull the mask down a little bit over onto your chin so that your voice can be heard a little bit clearer and then you can certainly put it right back up. But I have had some conversation with some of the residents who tell me they watch and they have a hard time understanding what we're saying because of the muzzled features of the masks. Okay, moving to item 5, are items to be removed, added, or changed on tonight's agenda? Alderman Chanzit, do you have anything?
Your Honor, I'm aware of none.
I have one. I was informed this afternoon that we are going to have to take off the agenda for tonight, item 8, which was going to be a presentation by the Flag Day Committee. They hope to be at our next meeting or one of the meetings in June, because June 14th is Flag Day, but tonight they had some people that couldn't make the meeting. So we'll remove item number 8. Anybody else have anything? Okay, then the next item is items to be removed, added, or changed. Does somebody want to make a motion to remove item 8?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Chanzit,
Second by Miller.
second by Miller. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Chanzit,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no nos. Okay, moving then to item number 6, which is the presentation of tonight's consent agenda. Alderman Chanzit.
Your Honor, the consent agenda reads as follows. To accept and place on file the building reports for April 2021. Approvals, May 14th, 2021 payroll in the amount of $908,065.19. The accounts payable check register in the amount of $3,614,662.94. Resolution 21-49-R requesting a permit from IDOT for the closure of various roadways for the BHS Homecoming Parade special event. Resolution 21-47-R approving an intergovernmental master agreement with Illinois Department of Transportation for state-maintained traffic signals. Resolution 21-48-R approving an intergovernmental master agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for governmental body maintenance of traffic control devices. Resolution 21-50-R authorizing Dynamic Ratings, Inc. to provide and perform monitoring equipment installation at the Paramount Substation and Main Substation for an amount not to exceed $139,328. Ordinance 21-27 declaring certain property to be surplus and authorizing sale thereof. Resolution 21-45-R authorizing purchase of a 2019 TruVac Prodigy hydro excavator from Standard Equipment Company for $342,454.88. Ordinance 21-26 demolition COA for 14 North Washington Avenue. And Resolution 21-43-R upgrade electric service on South Water Street to accommodate amplified entertainment. Your Honor, I would move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Knopf.
Moved by Alderman Chanzit, second by Alderman Knapp for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Chanzit,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Motion for the approval of the consent agenda is 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, item number 7, matters from the public for items not on the agenda. Do we have anything this evening?
I knew there was someone who was intending to announce a matter on matters from the public. If you are an attendee and you would like to raise your hand, please do so now. Okay, that individual was from Suicide Prevention Services of the City of Batavia, and they just wanted to let us know that they're going to be hosting a run here in downtown Batavia on June 5th. So I'll just make that announcement, and there are no other hands up at this point.
Okay. All right, then, we've removed item number 8 under previous agenda action, and we'll move then to item number 9, which is we're honored tonight to have Gloria Kelly, the Executive Director of Casa of Kane County, and she's here to tell us a little bit about where they stand right at the moment. And this is, I will tell you, in my opinion, one of the more valued agencies in Kane County.
Well, thank you, Mayor Schulke. It's been an honor. I think you and I have known each other for over a decade. My name is Gloria Kelly, and I have had the unique privilege to be the Executive Director of Casa Kane County for 14 years. I don't know where the time has gone. We're a 33-year-old organization for those who know a little bit or a lot about us. And our organization started in the our movement actually started in the late 1970s by a judge named David Sukup, who was actually from the Glen Ellen area. So this one a judge who at the end of the day knew that there was not enough being done in the lives of children in the foster care system, took things to a whole new level. And 40 years later, there are over 1,000 of our programs nationwide. So we are very unique in the sense of we are a guardian ad litem organization, and that we serve in the best interests of all children that come into abuse and neglect court. So we don't work, we work collaboratively, but yet independently with our 16th judiciary. Today, for even example, we had a wonderful meeting with our chief judge, who truly wraps his arms around everything he does within this community and supports of the increase of what we're all seeing in abuse and neglect filings, which in my 14 years, I have never seen anything like it. Just to give you an example, in 2019, I'll go back, 2018, we had 70 new abuse and neglect filings. 2019, we had 100. 2020, we had 210. And 2021, we are expected to have 220 to 230. And that does not include our current caseload of what we're handling. And as a guardian ad litem organization, we are a true party to the case. We come into the court with our public defender, state's attorney's office, and obviously all parties at that point through the whole adjudication and towards the end of what we call permanency for all children. And many people don't know that when a child does come into abuse and neglect court, our Casa organization and the Casa GAL stay with that child from the very beginning to the very end. And, just it's not always the case, but we're very proud of our statistics and our Casa volunteers that we have, less than a 8% turnover, which is remarkable. So we're very proud. We say we put the human side within the courtroom in and out of the courtroom walls to bring children that caring individual that they need and need more than ever during these challenging times that, again, I always say we've all been weathering and definitely in the same storm, but we're all experiencing a different boat. So anyway, we're in need of a few things, but again, I'm very respectful. I know everybody is always looking for more funding, and I respect that. But I'm here today for a couple of reasons. One is to educate and to share with you about the great work that our Casas, we have 200 Casa GL volunteers. It's like having 200 mini part-time employees. I have a staff now of 21. I have 2 full-time attorneys on staff. And our judiciary is growing every day. Our budget is $3.5 million. And we are located at the old courthouse on, downtown Geneva on 4th Street. We probably occupy about 2/3 of that whole spacing. And we're very supported by the King County Board of Directors, which is, again, means a lot to us as it does to them. We're also in need of Casa GL volunteers. So what I did is I put a bunch of flyers over there, and what I asked, my call to action tonight, is if you all could take 1 or 2 of them and, put them on your website, share them with your friends, because we are in our, again, histories, in the history of what I've been here, we are lower than we've ever been. But fortunately, we have a class right now of 30, and we're going to be appointing all that whole 30 class to, we have 50 cases. So we're still going to be short, but our whole team has been wrapping our arms around it. We're going to do another big push. So we think we'll kind of see some light at the tunnel about August or September. But again, I know we're no different than a lot of other people and the challenges that we're all facing. But again, I love this flyer that my team developed, because it really takes you through a small trajectory of what a Casa volunteer is. And then, of course, there's this little QR code that you can click on to learn more through our website. And then also on our website that was just newly revamped, there's a lot of different activities, videos, people that in our community, your neighbors, are probably visual to see. So at this time, and just be respectful of yours, is there any questions that maybe I can answer for you?
Alderman Jansen.
I guess I would ask, is there an ideal type of background or type of person that should step forward in a volunteer role?
I love that question. Because you know what, if you are in your, from 20 to however old you can be, someone who we've had everything from teachers to engineers to appellate court judges to the wonderful stay-at-home mom, if you have the time and can commit, which is a 50-hour training, it is 50 hours, but what we do is we offer 2 different trainings within the week. So we offer a Tuesday night, and then we offer a Thursday morning, depending upon your schedule. It takes a good 8 weeks to go through, and then you are sworn in under oath by our abuse neglect judge. And typical hours per month are about 7 to 10 a month. So it's not bad, but average case is about 2.5, 3.5 years. And sometimes you'll have 2, 3, 5 kids, but our team does a great job at, meeting you to where you're at and your location.
Other questions? Well, I'd just like to throw a moment of admiration to Gloria on the publication of her new book called No Surprises, Leading in the Non-for-Profit World. And she was kind enough to give me a copy. It's very well written, and I want to share that, if you're part of a group that is non-for-profit and you're trying to get yourself going, or you're trying to look for new ideas, or hearing what other groups are having, what problems they're having, how they select board members, and how long their terms of office should be. She's got it all in here. I think a lot of this is from Kane County experience, is it not?
Sure is.
So, this is kind of our story that's out there. Now, are these available? Can you tell us a little bit about the book, how somebody could get one if they're watching on TV?
Sure. And I actually wrote that book with my mentor and coach, Dr. Tom Berliner from Aurora University. It took us a couple of years. We published it last year, and it's on Amazon. So you
Okay.
can go and purchase it on Amazon.
All right. So, again, I would encourage anybody that's listening out there that has that kind of whim and wish in their heart that they may want to get involved or want to know more about this. There's some place you can go and get a real keen insight as to what's going on. So, I really thank you for coming down, and thank you for the great job your group continues to do. You're the ones that don't get a lot of publicity, and you don't hear much about you, but you're truly in the trench. And sometimes I think you got the fire flying over the top of your head here with some of the things you have to navigate and get involved with, but you really do step up, and there's a lot of people I think are better off at the end of the day because Casa of Kane County is here to work for them and with them and kind of get things past some very dire times. So thank you for your presence.
Well, I appreciate that so much, Mayor Shockey, because, I'll just add one other thing that just reminded me is when we had a meeting today, one of our court personnel reminded us it's like our jobs are like behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz because of the strong confidentiality that we all must adhere to. We can't really talk about it, but I'll tell you, it motivates me every day to get up and do the work that I do. It's important. And I work with some amazing people, from our leadership to our staff and our Casa volunteers. So, and thank you for your community mindedness and to helping support programs like ours.
So again,
Thank
thank you for coming down tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You do
Thank
the same.
For your time.
Okay, we'll move then to item number 10, which is reappointment. Batavia Plan Commission members, I'm asking for their reappointment are Sarah Harms, Tom Lalonde, and Thomas Goslin for 3-year terms to expire 6/1/24.
So moved. Second.
By Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman Rosado. Any questions, comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Your Honor, do we have any other vacancies?
Yeah, we have another one, and it's in the fourth ward. We have, on the Plan Commission, as you may remember,
Okay.
I started the policy a long time ago, and it's never been officially adopted by the city council, but I think it should be, is that we take one spot on the Plan Commission for each quadrant of town. So
Okay,
right now, we have somebody from the southwest, the northwest, the southeast, and
Okay.
Susan Stark was the appointee for the
From-
south,
okay.
northeast, and she has just had to resign because she moved out of town.
Mhm.
So I am looking for one, and as I've done with you recently,
Mm-hmm.
when I needed somebody, I go to the alderman in that area and say,
Mhm.
you know somebody involved, and the 2 Fourth Ward aldermen, to their credit, they're both on here, they want to chime in. They found somebody, but that person expressed that they weren't interested. So I guess we're back out now trying to
so
find
I
somebody.
do have somebody that has expressed interest in it.
Do they live in that section of the town?
They're actually just on the other side of Wilson Street,
Hmm.
so somewhat southeast, but they've been, lifetime Batavia
I need
residents.
north,
Northwest, yeah.
Northeast is what I'm looking for. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll keep that person in mind.
Okay, I
There'll be
will.
other appointments as
I'll let
time
you know.
goes on. So that's where we're at. We are one short, but we will find somebody. I'm confident of that. We just need somebody north of Wilson Street and east of the Fox River, is about what it is. So, no other discussion. I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf,
Aye.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Okay, next is item 11, which is a proclamation for National Public Works Week. And Alderman Chances, I'm told you have this to read.
I do. Your Honor, a proclamation. Whereas public work services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to efficient operation of public work systems and programs such as streets, water, wastewater, and electric. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work that they perform. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey D. Shelkey, Mayor of the City of Batavia, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th to 22nd of 2021 as National Public Works Week in the City of Batavia, and urge all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Signed this 17th day of May 2021. Your Honor, I would move that we approve the proclamation as read.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chances, second by Alderman Wolf, for the approval of the proclamation as presented. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Solfa,
Aye.
Barron,
Aye.
Lehman,
Aye.
Ayazi,
Aye.
Malay,
Aye.
Ewer,
Aye.
Saron,
Aye.
Vogelsinger,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Rosado,
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
That's it.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Gary Holm is not here. Normally, I present this to him. We've got the hard copy here, so we'll get it to him tomorrow.
Sounds good. If I could, Mayor, I'd just like to say a few words in particular about public works in light of the global pandemic that we have all experienced in the last year, and the dedication shown in particular by these employees. We worked our hardest to try to prevent an outbreak of COVID on these teams who work so closely together in close contact with one another in confined spaces in order to provide the services that the city needs. And when the pandemic hit, we had to break those teams into separate groups, which meant that at times half the number of people were available to do the exact same amount of work. And it really is a testament to the dedication of these employees that when they were sheltering in place, they stayed home and did all the things to keep themselves safe so that when it was their turn to come in and be that team of employees that was working, that they were going to be healthy and able to perform. And likewise, those who were there to perform did so splendidly, and I couldn't be more proud of that team of individuals.
Well, I thank you for that, and I also would like to just churn in on that and also make the observation that just like our public safety people, these folks are literally on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I can remember reviewing some documents here the early part of the year. I believe between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day this past year, for a variety of things, the wire that fell off the house and some weather-related issues and everything else, they were called out 5 times at different times of the day and night, some of it 2 or 3 in the morning. So they really are some unsung heroes in this town and really do a great job. Normally, when they go, they get whatever's wrong rectified and put back and get the lights back on or the water removed or the hole filled or whatever it is that's going on. And those are kind of jobs nobody pays much attention to, but if they don't get done, all of our phones would be ringing here and the emails would be flying. So they are a vital component of Batavia. So just join with Laura and publicly thanking them for a great job.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing we got is 12, which is approval of a Class F special events non-for-profit liquor license for the Elder Day Center for Pearls Around the World Food Extravaganza and celebration fundraising event held at 328 West Wilson Street.
Mr. Mayor, I'm stepping away.
Please, I guess, yeah, I suppose you should.
Indeed, Your Honor.
This is just my 2 cents here. This is a very good cause, and I think they're just looking to sell some wine or beer or something. This isn't a big lion liquor extravaganza, but these are the folks up at the old McQueen School on West Wilson Street, and they do a great job on a daily basis with their situation. So,
Yes.
you want to make a comment, Alderman Chan?
Indeed, everyone passed their background check, and there's Bassett training and certification involved with this as well. So I would move that we approve this Class F liquor license.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chanzit, second by Alderman Cerrone for the approval of the Class F liquor special event liquor license for the Elder Daycare Center at 328 West Wilson Street. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
Solfa.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Ayazi.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Cerrone.
Aye.
Vogelsinger.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Beck. Oh, Knopp.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 13 yes, no no's, 1 absent, and let the record reflect that Alderman Beck has returned to the meeting. Thank you. Is Main Street online with us tonight? Or?
Yes, we have both. Beth Walker is here, and Bob Hansen is going to follow Beth Walker and give us an update on the Boardwalk Shops.
Are we going to be able to see him, or are they?
Yeah, Beth is up on the screen. She's waving her hands.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Well, basically, we are really excited to have things getting more back to normal. Because the events are coming back, we were able to hire a part-time special events coordinator who will start June 1st. We're really excited. She has a background in Parks and Recs and an event, so we're great. We're super happy to have her. The Boardwalk Shops will open May 28th. The Farmers Market June 5th. I was able to meet with John Kessler today to finalize all our plans, so we're all good to go with that. And we have cocktails in the park coming up and block party. And this weekend on Friday, after Image Film Festival, we'll be showing Best in Show at 6:30 on Water Street. To purchase tickets, go to afterimagefilmfestival.com. And that's pretty much what's going on with Main Street. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody got any questions?
Was the movie night inside Water Street or outside on Water Street?
It is outside on Water Street, and you can purchase tickets, and it should be a good time. The movie is Best in Show.
So it'll be in the outdoor public dining area.
Correct. Thank you.
We have any further from Main Street then?
Yes, Bob Hansen is on the line. He's going to tell us about the Boardwalk Shops.
Bob, are you here?
Muted.
Unmute.
You're muted, Bob.
Maybe.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Am I alive?
You are live.
All right, good. Yes, as Beth mentioned, the shops are going to open up on the 28th. I'd like to give you an update on the construction process of the last two shops. We finished them about 2 weeks ago with the landscaping and the extended deck and everything else, with about 220 hours of volunteer hours this year, including myself, Dave Brown, Tony Millay, a few others who put in several hours, totaling about 220. The numbers come in at 27,500 for the two shops, the deck, and that's including the picnic area that we plan on starting in middle of June. With the help of Heinz Lumber, Ron Link at MAB Electric, and some of the Funway staff, we were able to get $7,800 of donated services and material. So bringing the cost of the two shops and necessary groundwork down to $19,600. So we're really doing well as far as the budget goes, and looking forward to another successful year.
Very good. Anybody have any questions of Bob? Thank you, Bob. Thanks for all the great work you've done on this. Looking forward to another very successful year there and making Batavia proud. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor.
And concludes the Main Street report. So moving to 14, which is a motion approve of bids as purchased parcel 1 and 2 of the old railroad parcels south of Bernadette Lane, and a 3/4 majority vote is required. Somebody on the council, this was discussed in committee.
We did talk about it at the committee level.
At the committee.
Yeah. These are two more pieces of the property along the right-of-way. One comes in, kind of makes an L-shaped lot off of, I think off of Bernadette. And then the other one backs up to a lot on Brandywine Circle.
Any questions or comments about this? Nothing else, I'd entertain a motion then for the approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman Miller for the approval of the purchase of the parcels 1 and 2 of the old railroad parcels south of Bernadette Lane. No further discussion. The clerk, please call the roll.
Wolf.
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
Solfa.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Ayazi.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
Vogelsinger.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Zato.
Aye.
Beck.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Motion's approved. 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Okay, moving then to 15, which is Resolution 21-044-R, award of bid of demolition of 916 Park Street to Fowler Enterprises LLC for an amount of $25,200 plus alternative number 1 of bid of $4.25 per square foot. Does somebody have this to talk about it?
I do.
Chanzit?
I do indeed. This is the final chapter in this property. This is the contract for, I'm sorry. Contract authorizing the demolition. There is an issue with asbestos on the property, so that is of some additional concern. Fowler Enterprises out of Elgin came in with the lowest bid, so I would move that we approve Resolution 21-44-R, authorizing bid for demolition for 916 Park Street.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chanzit, second by Alderman Saron for the approval of the resolution for the awarding of the bid at 916 Park Street to Fowler Enterprises. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
Solfa.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Ayazi.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
Vogelsinger.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Zato.
Aye.
Beck.
Aye.
Knopf.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. All right, moving to 16, which is approval of a draft report of Batavia bullet point outreach to local legislators on the whole coal-fired discussion that we've been involved with. Gary Holm, is he here? Is he online? Or Laura, are you handling this? Or
I can handle it.
I am here too.
And Gary is online. So in our discussion last week, it was requested to put the 4 matters of concern regarding the legislation into a letter, and Gary has done that, including brief introductory and also summary paragraph requesting their support for changes to the legislation that would allow the city of Batavia to be supportive of the legislation and also supportive of the closure of the plant, so long as certain changes could be made. And so that's what you have before you today. And I guess Gary and I are looking for any questions that you might have, any wording changes that you would like to propose before we finalize this letter for the mayor's signature and then distribution to our elected representatives.
I guess the only thing that I see that I saw in it that not so much a concern, but just a simple word change, and I'm not sure what it really needs to be, but in the first paragraph, the opening paragraph, where the concerns cannot be fully resolved, and the city does not support the closure of Prairie State, I would say we do not support the early closure or, accelerated closure process of Prairie State. That's the only thing that I really feel like needs a little more clarification, because I think we do support it regardless, but there has to be, conditions met, and there, if it's going to be early, there has to be, the plan has to be real to help with that.
Do you define early as when our bonds are paid off or when Prairie State is no longer a functioning plant? Like end of life for the plant or end of our bonds?
Oh, I'm saying early as any time before the current proposal. Because I think we'd be out of it as soon as we paid off. And if it's any time before that, that's why we have this whole list of stuff going to the state.
Bonds then? Bonds.
Yeah.
any other questions or comments? Thank you. Alderman Miller?
Yeah, I was in the first paragraph along the same lines of, like, it seems a little heavy-handed for us to say that we support it only if these conditions are made. What happens if they don't meet any of them? It seems like we're giving them an ultimatum of, we will only support this if this happens. Like, remember Mark was saying, the beginning of the letter should have said something exactly like what we have in the beginning, but saying we support it, however, there are concerns being met, instead of saying we only support this if these concerns are made.
Alderman Miller, if I might
Yes.
chime in, I asked that question specifically of council at the committee meeting, and we went around, and it was my understanding that a majority of the 14 council members felt that the city would only support closure if the conditions were met.
I mean, yes. The other thing is that one of the conditions is if it closes and we aren't able to fully pay, like we're not fully done with the bonds, that doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So we're kind of handcuffing ourselves to not support this regardless. And
It's just that aspect of it, just the closure of the plant. So earlier, we state that regardless of the closure of the plant, we do promote that we support the long-term goal of achieving 100% renewable energy by the year 2050. It's just the closure of the plant that we would oppose if we could not resolve those matters, which the closure would make financially devastating to Batavia.
Yes. I mean, yes, it would be devastating. But I just think that the way we're asking, it sounds like we're handcuffing ourselves into telling them we're not going to support it. Instead of saying, however, we just have these conditions that will devastatingly affect our residents and our community. Here are the things that we need help with. Instead of saying, we'll support it only if. We're only giving them one way to think about that.
Well, and maybe the fully resolved piece, like, I mean, I think it's a negotiation. We think we can expect that some of these costs we're not going to have 100% of this list met.
Like what Bill Scown sent us earlier today, that one of those seems like it can only be met by federal support. The state can't support us.
And I said it several times during our COW meeting. I think that the reality of this is we need to get the legislators to really look at, when they structure this bill, how, because they're going to do the same thing we're doing. They're going to go to the federal government and ask for money to support this, because there's no way the state of Illinois can afford to do any of this. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers that were in the RMI report that Bill Scown sent to us, I mean, you're talking $2 to $3 trillion a year for our country to be able to get to that point. There's no way that happens at a state level, and even the smaller portions at the state level without federal help.
Right.
I mean, that's not going to happen.
And they need to have that language to be able to go to the federal government to use towards them. So we're just providing them wording that they'll be able to use moving forward. It's very straightforward with what we're saying to them.
If it's us that says it that way, and then 20 other municipalities that say the same thing to their legislators when they get to the point of voting on this, or they get to the point of rewriting or adding or changing anything in this, they're going to see that. And I think that's what, to me, is so important about this. And, we've seen already that we've got the willingness of our legislators local to listen to us, which I think is really important. And I think it's also very important that we look at, again, the chairs, the vice chairs of those committees that are putting this together, and to the governor, to get this information in front of them and tell them that, it's not just about whether you want to be doing the right thing and getting, as close as we can, as fast as we can to 100% renewable, but also doing it in a way that's not going to wipe out the economies in some of your communities.
Alderman Jansen?
Delete the second and third sentence, combine them with the more simplified, softer. However, the city cannot support the closure unless the following concerns are addressed. And then we go into our bullet points. Otherwise, it's very well put together. It just seems abrupt.
Yeah.
Paragraph. Does that sound better?
You always have a good
Well,
way of.
I did that for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd support that.
However, the city cannot support the closure unless the following concerns are addressed. Pretty simple.
Yeah, and I think addressed is really what we want to say, because I think it's, we know we're going to have to pay more than other cities. That's a given because of the situation we're in.
Yeah.
But it also can't be something that then hurts the economy in our city, whether it be the businesses, the industrial, the homeowners, to the point where then people flee our city to go somewhere else. We're gonna have a hard enough time as we move forward in this whole deal to try to keep the rates down enough in the state of Illinois to make it, attractive to anybody else to come into this state. So, and our taxes are also gonna be a big problem for that as well. So, I mean, we got to try to figure out what we can do at this point. And I think, and I really hope that the legislation that comes out of this is as practical as it can be. Not, I know everybody wants to be as green as we can, as fast as we can. But if the technology is not really there and the money's not really there to make that happen, we can't go as fast and as accelerated as everybody thinks we can. Or we will end up with, I think, disastrous consequences. And not just economically here, but the fact we won't have a good base load source of power if we shut down everything as fast as they want to.
Alderman Chancet, may I ask you to repeat the combined sentence once
Sure,
again?
absolutely. Delete sentence 2 and 3 and replace with, however, the city cannot support the closure unless the following concerns are addressed. I would prefer a colon, but I can handle a period.
Alderman Beck?
I have a question about how we're asking the item number 2 to be addressed. So it talks about closure prior to the full satisfaction of the bonds, and then it lists, what our financial obligations are going to be. But there isn't a specific ask in there like there is for number 1 and number 2. Are we asking the state to pay for those items? Are we asking them to, what are we asking in number 2?
I guess it is either because I don't think that the state has anything within their power to alleviate the obligation to pay the bonds, and so it would be to allow closure not to happen until the satisfaction of the bond debt had been completed.
Kind of changes my support level a little bit.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I have a question about actually Laura and Gary when they met with Representative Hirschauer, Senator Villa. According to, it seemed like in your weekly update that they were aware and supportive
Yes,
and caring of our situation.
very.
And also in Mr. Scown's email from today, that they are working with us in Geneva and Naperville, and trying to come up with solutions. And pertaining to the bonds, like the state can't help with that, but like helping us pursue maybe federal help. Am I understanding that correct?
Correct, and that would still be closure after satisfaction of the bonds. So that would mean that at some federal level, let's just say a bailout of some sort, so that they would come in and say, after 2030, we've paid those bond investors off, and the city of Batavia no longer has to make payments on its bond debt after 2030. That would be, for example, full satisfaction of the bonds.
And do we feel hopeful
No,
with that?
not at all.
And what about our representatives? Do they have a leaning?
Not in terms of someone bailing out the bond obligations, but that there are discussions about this issue because it pertains to so many, right? So we only own, NIMPA owns 7.6% of Prairie State, but there are numerous other municipal and co-op electric organizations in the state of Illinois and 9 other states that have part ownership in the similar issue of holding bond debt on something that is at risk of being closed prematurely. And so it's a big topic of discussion. It isn't something that is being dismissed as off the table.
Alderman Jansen?
So Abby, I was going to say, I actually appreciate some of the ambiguity of Section 2. It would be better if we had an ask, but I think the ask almost needs to be verbal, because the verbal is a little stronger, because I think a lot of us were uncomfortable with what this section really says. What this section says is Batavia either needs a bailout, or we need provisions in the Illinois Code for an orderly unwinding of our financing through bankruptcy protection, which is currently not afforded. I don't know if we want to put that in writing, because it seems like everybody was afraid of that. If we leave it ambiguous, when we hand the letter to a legislator, we can tell them that that's our ask.
Joe's got his hand up.
Oh, Joe, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate the letter that Mr. Scown presented us today, and it made me think, how much more impactful would these bullet points be if the letter was co-signed by the three communities rather than one?
I can tell you that in a meeting that I shared with St. Charles and Geneva, they expressed support for these 4 points. The point about the renewable portfolio standards do not affect those other communities the same way that they affect the city of Batavia, because we have a power sales agreement in excess of our current demand, and they do not. They are have a diversified platform of power. So it's our issues are a little bit different. Geneva also has 2 additional issues that we do not have, in that they have a power generation, a natural gas plant, and they are also burning methane or converting methane gas to electricity at the waste management landfill. And both of those would be subject to closure under the current form of CEJA. And so there are nuances that are different for each of these cities, but we all felt very comfortable, being on the same call with our legislators, because there are so many shared issues.
Thank you.
From our last meeting, I had been asked to share chats that came in, and so this is from Kate Cuneo. All right, so we've got the one change to the introductory paragraph. Are there other changes that are proposed?
There's only one, but I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but citizen Susan Russo sent an email, and one of her points I actually agree with. In bullet 1, cost of proposed new taxes and fees. The second bullet, where the second point where we say we are concerned about the downward economic spiral such rate increases would cause, she's suggesting get rid of the next 3 sentences, and I actually agree with that. I think that first sentence is concise and speaks for itself. I don't know if we need to expound on rate increase problems.
The reason why I included the other sentences is because we have not yet in the letter introduced the power sales agreement being in excess of our demand. And so I felt that perhaps they wouldn't realize, they would think, well, if an industrial user goes away, that's just revenue that the utility is not collecting. And they might not see that it actually, somebody has to pay for the electric that they're not using, so that's going to get put on the other rate payers. But that was the only reason why I included those other 2. I agree that you could just use the first one, so whichever everybody prefers.
It's a critical part of the equation, though.
Yeah, I think it's really important that the legislators realize the way our utility is structured and the way with an all requirements contract, take or pay contract that we have, that no matter how it is structured or how it gets used, somebody's paying for it. And if that number shrinks, then everybody pays more because that number shrinks. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important part of the overall effect of what would happen. if the rates go up that much.
I think that's important too, but I don't think that's communicated here.
And that may be one of the questions that they're gonna ask back to us. I mean, and it's hard to try to stay focused within a really finite amount of things you're trying to say to somebody, but yet you want to get across the, how bad this could be for us.
I would like to suggest something. We've had so many residents take time out to virtually attend our meetings, to send us emails, and 100% of those that I have seen in my time on council have been expressing support for clean energy. So I just want to make sure that our letter reflects what our citizens have taken the time to voice, and what I think several people on council feel, that we would really like to support this. Our situation is very complicated and we are looking for help, but we would really like to move in the direction of clean energy whenever it is a possibility for us, whatever that might mean.
And I think that's something that we've pretty much, I feel like we've tried to agree on, or we tried to come to a consensus on that focus. I guess where some of us may disagree on it is that the closing of Prairie State early has such great effect, especially on the city of Batavia, that without assistance or without changing the way the legislation is currently proposed, it will have a real impact on, I think, everything in this city.
I totally agree. But I think that if we start out sounding like a team player, maybe that bodes well for us finding a solution, or, getting what we need out of this situation.
That's the first sentence.
Yeah, and that's what I think, the way Dan wanted us to rewrite that last sentence of that first paragraph really shows that, we want to work together on this. We want to have assistance on this, and we want to be part of this legislation. I don't know how else to say that.
Alderman Beck.
I think one thing that makes me a little bit nervous about what we put on the paper and what we're saying that we support is that, if we do not prematurely close Prairie State, if it's allowed to stay open until our bonds are paid off, what if somebody else's bonds aren't paid off and so it's allowed to stay open longer? Without the state closing this plant, what are our outs? How much longer will we be stuck with having extra capacity that we will never be able to be a part of moving the state of Illinois towards renewable energy? So if we're not thinking ahead to when we can join the team, then we don't sound like we're really on the team. And so that's a question that I have too, is have we looked into, without the state closing the plant after our bonds are paid off, what are our outs? Because if we can't vocalize that we're going to get out, then I don't think it really sounds like we're really looking to get out, looking to go renewable.
So the power sales agreement says that our out is the later of the completion of the payment of the bonds or the closing of the plants. And so if the plant closes before the bonds are paid out, our next opportunity to get out of a 55 megawatt contract would be when we finish paying off the bonds in 2042. So we would still be buying 55 megawatts of power in excess of what our demand is. But when we do pay off the bonds in 2042, then we would have the opportunity to make a new contract that was tailored more to the actual demand.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody from the groups that have been, involved in some of the discussions we've had at COW meetings have really ever addressed. I don't think there's anything proposed or anything even been talked about how it would relieve us from the contract side of it. I don't think there's really anything other than a bailout to get us out of the bonds. But the contract, I don't know if the ICC could do that or how a state legislature could do that to, because the plant closes, that we would have the ability to restructure, even just restructure our contract. Because the contract is really one of the things that's been detrimental to us because we buy more than we use. And if we're still stuck in that contract because of the bonds, at least if there was the ability to redo that, because that company, whoever is managing what's left of the Prairie State entity, if the plant were to close, would still have to provide that power. Whether they buy it from a wind field, whether they buy it from solar power, whether they go outside the state and buy it from another, generator, whatever that may be, that would be then, I think, one of the ways we could cut our costs would be if the legislature would force them to make us or allow us to redo the contract and say only buy 40 megawatts instead of 55. Or whatever we thought we needed.
I thought we were going to have our legal look into just that option of if they are forced to close, are we still legally bound?
The only thing that I think I've heard so far is that we would still be legally bound to buy from that entity, whether.
Just the plain language of the contract says that if just because the plant closes, if you look at the termination clause within the power sales agreement, it says that this agreement does not end until, and it's the later of the payment of the bonds, the closure of the plant. So it's really the plain terminology. And as far as getting out of or adjusting that contract, that's the thing that the city spent millions of dollars
try to get out of
pursuing legal advice as to how we could break that contract, how we could redraft it, and the answer was we couldn't. So whether or not CEJA is enacted doesn't change that scenario.
Well, so the contract is with NIMPA.
Yes.
So we need both to happen as quickly as possible. We need the bonds to be paid off and the plant to close in order to break that contract.
Whichever one of those happens later is when the contract is over.
Right. Okay. So we need to pay off our bonds, and then we need the plant to close it as soon as possible in order to get out from under Prairie State.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that I made in these discussions, being asked, so when is the time when it would be the least harmful to the city of Batavia for that plant to close, but being reasonable about moving toward renewable energy? And the answer to that is when the bonds are paid off.
So someone that strong arms Prairie State into staying open until 2060 that gets power from them in Ohio means that we will buy 55 megawatts from Prairie State until 2060.
No, when our bonds are paid off, we have the opportunity to make a new contract. And so if we want to make a new contract in 2042, we have the ability to do that.
You said whichever.
Laura,
That's
it's the
incorrect.
latter of.
It's the later of.
The later of, so it would be 2060.
yeah.
It would be
Yes.
whenever the plant closes. So
Right.
if we never ask for the plant to be closed by law and somebody keeps it alive, we will be stuck with dirty coal more than we need for that long.
So I see Abby's point. If the plant closes, then at least we know that 2042 is
Is the
end date.
latest it will be. Yeah,
And
exactly.
otherwise, it's this elusive end date that we do not see.
So in point number 2, it says closure prior to the full satisfaction of bonds. And by putting the city's bond obligation through 2042, I could make it more clear that it's meant before the satisfaction of Batavia's bonds.
I'm sure.
So we'll still have a contract for 55 megawatts, but the plant will be closed. And that way we can, if NIMPA is providing us with the 55 megawatts from, a diversified portfolio instead of 55 megawatts from a coal-fired plant, then that would be a move in a positive direction for the objectives of CEJA.
Alderman Jansen?
Section 1, bullet point 2. Delete. Replace with, Batavia is especially vulnerable because of our take or pay contract with Prairie State. If we lose industrial or commercial users. That's because costs cannot be written off and instead would be borne by all of our electric customers. This could trigger an erosion of our tax base and overall loss in property values. I think that encapsulates the fear and the mathematics.
So I guess maybe what I'm hearing here is that we still need to work on these bullet
Needs to go
points a
back to
little
committee.
bit before we finalize them.
This might need to go back to committee.
Pardon?
This might need to go back to committee, because these are committee discussions that we're having right now.
But I think we also don't
That's
want
fine.
to, we really shouldn't wait much longer.
Yeah,
mean,
I think
feel
the
like this-
reason why our legislators reached out to us is because they're close.
Yeah.
They're having discussions where it seems that it's possible that things could go to the floor for a vote at any
And
time.
that could be 3 a.m. tomorrow that they come up on the floor and it goes through.
But I've also had conversations with all of our, all but one of our House and Senate members.
Can I ask Gary a question real quick?
Mhm.
Gary, you there?
Yes, sir.
How much does IMEA have out of Prairie State? I mean, is it 100 megawatts or what's, do you have an idea of what the number is?
Oh, and they're a larger percentage than we are. NIPA is 7.6 and IMEA is, I think, 15 maybe, but I don't remember exactly.
So it's above 10% of the plant output.
I believe so. Oh, yeah. We're at 7.6. I'm confident in saying they're above 10%.
Okay, because that was one of the things that I mean, I feel like I know IMEA is lobbying hard to try to, I don't know, temper this bill or to slow it down. You know, I'm being the one council member that's still here from when we got into the Prairie State contract. And I feel like I'm hearing the same things that were said to us when we got into that contract, how great it's going to be. You're going to be able to sell off the power at a better rate. The plant's not going to have huge overruns, all the things that we heard when we got into that contract. You know, and I read through a lot of this stuff, the RMI report. I spent a lot of time going through that. And there's some things in there that make me very nervous that we want to close the plant in 2030, but yet the RMI report shows the ability to take over and replace what's there and to have the technology to do it is 20 to 50 years away, or 20 to 40 years away, and $2 to $3 trillion a year for this country. If that's the reality, then what happens when we close the plant? We are still buying power outside, and it's coming from another state or another plant or wherever that's still hooked into our grid. That's probably not as clean as Prairie State. Granted, Prairie State is a dirty plant. I'm not going to say that it's not. But there are a lot of other generating plants that are out in this state and in other states that are still operating with no end in sight because somebody has propped them open and they keep going. And those will be the places we end up buying power from when this shuts down. If there isn't the technology and the infrastructure and everything else to use the renewable power that we all want. And that's one of the fears that I have, is that we're going to get into the middle of this and not have the technology and not have the ability, even if it's just financially, to go out and do what we really think we should do. You know, I kind of liken it to, hey, I want a brand new electric car, but I can't afford it yet. And they don't make that one that I want to go 500 miles on a trip. But, you know, I've got this old beater truck, so you know what? I'm just going to sell the old truck before that car is ready or before I can afford it. And I just don't want us to be in that situation. I want this to go through and have ways that it can realistically happen. And I want, you know, everybody from the big power companies that run the majority of the over the long haul lines to say that they have the infrastructure in place to do all this and to get everything built. And I want to know that part of this Clean Jobs Act is locating those businesses in Illinois. I want the jobs to be here. I don't want them to be in Indiana or Kentucky or Tennessee or overseas. And that's something that I just don't see enough of, and I don't hear people talking enough about that. That's really one of my fears in this, is that we're really pushing to try to make this happen, and I get that. I understand that. But when the technology, to me, is not ready to go that fast, we all need to realize that. Thank you.
Piggyback on what Alderman Wolf just said, in my conversations I have with other mayors in the area, or specifically the Chicagoland region, there's a lot of, I'll call it trepidation about some of this, from the perspective that, one of the goals here is to take the car fleet and transfer it over to an all-electric fleet, which it will then apparently have a dramatic impact on discharge of fumes and pollution and whatever. But there seems to be some grave doubt out there as to whether or not right now the electric world is really able to, if we told them every car now on the street is going to be plugged into your garage at night to recharge itself, do we have that volume of power available to supply every car in Illinois with and I think the supposition is they don't. And you're certainly more involved in the car business than I am by far, but that's a big fear that a lot of them have. And then, of course, the next thing you get into is at some point in time, the Illinois General Assembly is going to have to make up some new taxes here. Because right now, we're highly dependent in this state on MFT, motor fuel tax. And we're paying, all of us are buying it when we go to the gas station. And, we're paying that bill. But that MFT is what is out there on all these streets in our town, putting down new paths and repairing roads and adding roads and whatever have you, and that's the big source of money. So there's probably going to have to be, at some point in time, invented a new electric tax on your electric bill if you're going to be putting all these cars into this system. So there's a lot of moving parts here that I've yet to hear anybody really diagnose or bring out and bring any conversation about it.
And one thing that I think we all need to be reminded of is every electric car that gets built is not a carbon-free thing. For a typical hybrid vehicle, doesn't matter who manufactures it, it's anywhere from 1 to 3 years worth of carbon that would be basically from a gasoline engine. A Tesla or a full electric vehicle that has a 300-mile capability is, depending on whose report you read, is anywhere from 5 to 8 years worth of the normal carbon, CO2 that's emitted from a gasoline vehicle. So, I mean, from an impact standpoint to the world, it's not as clean as everybody thinks it is. Plus, you have to factor in to that where that power is generated. Right now, with the amount of coal and gas-fired generations out there, charging electric is not as great as everybody thinks it is.
Something I just saw that they're proposing is a change to the MFT rules that it might be able to be applied to bike and walking infrastructure in the future, which would be a great use of that.
Well, I think they're going to supplement that tax, and it's either going to be paid at the time when you purchase the car or when you purchase the license. Your license fee every year is going to include basically a taxed amount for the average road usage, because you're not buying fuel and you're not paying MFT.
The registration for electric cars annually is already about triple what it is for a standard car.
And it's going to go up more.
And I think we'll see a full restructure. I mean, this is decades or generations down the line, but we're going to see a restructure in the way that American life looks. And what will be great soon is that if someday we don't have excess capacity, people, the city of Batavia can promote energy efficiency, and we can get to the point where we're using a lot less. We are all using far more than we need, and there's going to be real restraints and real feedback in the system that shows us how much we actually need to use, because those feedbacks aren't there right now, and those limits are not there for us right now. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be scary, and it's going to have to happen because there's renewable and non-renewable resources, so they will not renew.
Nick's had his hand up over there.
Alderman Throne.
This is a great conversation because there's so many different visions of what the future is going to hold and so many uncertainties. And it's great for everyone to learn all the nuances involved in this CEJA thing, especially the residents, because we all want to get to the same end game. But tonight is about this letter. And Dan said something very important before, that the verbal discussion is way more important than this letter. This is designed to get a conversation started, I see it as. So to get every one of those nuances that we're discussing into this letter, it's going to be 500 pages long. And we're right there. I think it's more imperative to get something finalized and out there and start the conversation than it is to go back to committee and keep doing this, because we know the 14 committee men designing something, it's just going to keep doing this. We've got to everybody's got to give in a little bit and say, okay, it's not perfect, but get it out there so we can start making calls and talking and answering some of these questions.
I'm actually really glad that you say that. I was just cleaning out my garage last week, and I found an old packet from a drive down in Springfield, and we had all those position papers. We did not read the position papers to the legislators. We had our talking points and the things we wanted to say to give color, and each one of the municipalities shared their own specific peril. You're absolutely right. We should move forward and just be done tonight.
And we're right there.
Thank you. Yes.
And I have to say, a lot of this information's already been shared with our representatives. So it's just to continue the communication. What they've seen this. When they get this, it's not going to be shocking, but at least they can form questions that they can come back to us and ask, and we can talk about.
And I can also say that they were not shocked by these 4 points, and they said that's exactly what we thought you were going to say. We thought those were the 4 things that you would have problems with in this legislation, so they understood.
So I think it's fine if we just change that sentence the way it's already been spoken by Dan in terms of that first paragraph. All these other ones we've already talked about, and I think they're all sweet and to the point, and let's just change that first sentence to make it sound not as forceful and draconian, and then just let's finalize it.
Sounds good.
That sounds
Dan,
like a motion.
what I got from your point about that bullet point in the first one, you said take or pay contract. I'm just worried that they might not know that jargon. And so I said, because we have a contract for more power than we demand, if we lose industrial users because of higher rates, the cost of their load would need to be distributed to the other Batavia ratepayers. This would result in a decline in property values and a downward economic spiral for our community.
And that's the complete equation. Yes. Thank you. That needs to be in there. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Alderman Rosado?
I agree with Alderman Cerrone and Alderman Salfa. I thought we agreed Tuesday night to trash the letter and put these 4 bullet points in there. And tonight we're discussing it again. I think we need to get this out there, and we need to get this out there pretty quick. And I think the way it is with the change that you made, Dan, I think we should move forward with that.
I believe Alderman Salfa made a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the 2 changes recommended.
Second.
Move by Alderman Sofa, second by Alderman Rosado, that we move forward with the 2 changes that we've committed. Alderman Miller, do you want to make a comment?
Mark had his hand up for a little while. I know it's down now, but I don't know if he has something he still wanted to say.
I gave up. It all came back around. Everybody solved or said the things that I was going to say.
All right.
Don't ever give up.
And Laura?
I was just trying to be polite with my hand up.
If you could just put together a quick list for us, just to make it easier for the 14 of us, so we don't have to search it. If you have the emails to the legislatures we want to get this in front of, or we want to personally send a note to or anything,
Sure.
you could get that together and just send that to all of us.
You bet.
So that way
Contact
we have the
emails.
contact stuff.
You bet.
And this isn't, I mean, if this letter is not unanimously voted on, it's just majority rule, right? It'll be the letter.
And that also says something to the people involved, that there are some people that have different views on it, which there always will be. I'm trying to think if there was anything we've ever sent to the state that's been unanimous. I think usually there's somebody that doesn't like it. But that's the reality of it. And personally, I get the ideas that you have and the way you want to go after that. My biggest fear is I have to balance those, the wants of what I think is right to do for everybody, for what I know will impact, what the impact's going to be. And that's where I'm coming from with my decision, and the reason why I kind of feel like we can do that, but it has to be measured, and it has to be, there has to be a real plan that I can wrap my head around and be able to justify to anybody that comes up to see me when the state legislature does it.
So for the clarity of everybody here, can somebody read for us the two changes at the beginning that Alderman Solter?
Laura's got them because she's going to make the change before you sign the letter.
Just so before we vote on it, let's hear it.
Right.
So there are three sentences that form the first paragraph, the introductory paragraph, and the recommendation was to delete the second and third sentence and replace it with, however, the city cannot support the closure of Prairie State unless the following concerns are addressed, colon. And the second change was to the second bullet point of the first point, to change to, because we have a contract for more power than we demand, if we lose industrial users because of higher rates, the cost of their load would need to be distributed to the other Batavia ratepayers. This would result in a decline in property values and a downward economic spiral for our community.
I just want to reiterate one thing. When I said this, I wasn't trying to force us through. Everyone's opinion is very important in this. I just don't know if we'll get to 14 unanimous. The things that I'm confident in pushing this forward with are the fact that we are in consensus that we're in support of this legislation. However, we have some concerns that need to be addressed. And if it's that simple, I think we all are in agreement with that.
Except that we have no guarantee that the plant will close in 2042. We have no guarantee that we will help the state achieve their goal of being 100% renewable by 2050 when that plant might not close.
We have no guarantees with any of this legislation.
Yeah, if they can't figure out the technology to do it, the plant's going to stay open
And
to
we
provide
support it.
power until they can find a source to replace it with. And if it takes them 20 years to be able to come up with battery technology and solar panels that can work as many hours a day as they can, that's going to be the reality of when that's acceptable for that to not be part of the grid.
But then at least it's that reality. It's going to move us to renewable as soon as possible, whereas this is not a guaranteed of as soon as possible.
I don't know if I'm misleading you or something.
No.
We are in support of this. But if we can get some funds out of it to help us through, or they acknowledge we're in a different situation, that's what we're saying. I think we're all,
But even if
we know we've got to go this direction.
Right, but we won't. If the plant is open, so long as the plant is open, we are not out of this plant. We are burning coal as long as this plant is open. So there is no joining the renewables. There's no vision of a clean energy future so long as this plant is open. The city of Batavia is locked into this plant.
But it may not be the municipalities in Illinois that are going to keep it open. It may be in the other states that are going to force us to stay open. And Illinois can't.
They covered that they said they do have the authority to close it. As the state of Illinois, they have the authority to close coal plants within their state.
And our letter
this
just addresses
doesn't
that
say-
if it closes, these 4 points are going to happen to us.
I think regardless
we're not voting on that.
of what we want or what we think is going to happen, that the state of Illinois, somewhere in legislation in the next 5 years, is going to force all of the coal generation plants to shut down. I don't know what the date will be, what the end date will be, but 50 years from now, you're not going to see a coal-fired plant running in this state or in this country. And I doubt you're going to see very many of the gas plants running. The only gas plants I think you're going to see running are going to be methane, because the methane is going to be generated off of the garbage dumps, and that's what they're going to have to do with it. Rather than just expose it to the atmosphere, they're going to burn it to make power with it.
Mr. Mayor, you know, I have a little concern with having that the city of Batavia, like in our letter, does not support the closure of Prairie State. Even with all the beforehands and the after and the howevers, I just don't know if we want our name attached to that we don't support.
We actually do.
I know we do. This is what I'm getting at.
And in the letter.
I know, but
in
right,
point
the
number
very
Q.
last sentence of that first paragraph still says, but if these things don't happen, we do not support the closure of Prairie State.
We got rid of that sentence, though.
Okay, can
Yeah,
you
we
read that one
eliminated
more
that.
time in the first paragraph
Sure.
that we changed?
However, the city cannot support the closure unless the following concerns are addressed.
Right, so we still have worded in there, the city cannot support the closure. Is there another way we could word that?
We could use the words that are in the second paragraph prior to full satisfaction of the bonds.
Or, I'm trying to remember what happened even with the rewriting of that first paragraph, but can we just take out that final statement that we cannot support the closure? Because even, I think you had mentioned Susan Rousseau's letter, it tends to be a little redundant also. We say the statement positively, but then we come back and we say it negatively.
The early closure, so right now, CEJA proposes closing Prairie State in 2030. There are a host of things that would have a negative impact on us if
I
the
understand
plant were
all
to
of
close
that,
in
yes.
2030. So we're trying to express our wanting them to prevent those things from happening by waiting until such time as the bonds are paid off. And if the bonds are paid off in 2030, that's great. But if the bonds are not paid off until 2042, then 2042 would be the date at which we would be supportive of the plant closing. And I think that, without coming right out and saying it, I think that, and the legislators that I spoke with understood that we weren't asking, please keep Prairie State open as long as possible, only until the full satisfaction of the bonds.
Alderman Jansen?
So I got a letter, we all got a letter from someone saying, I urge you to vote to close Prairie State with your vote tonight, which shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what we are here to do tonight. If Prairie State closes tomorrow, by no act of anything that we've done at this table, I have to face my neighbors when I get my mail and say, I'm really sorry that I'm going to have to raise your electric rates, but I'm going to be paying them also. And we have no bailouts given to the city of Batavia because we haven't even asked for it. The only reason this letter exists is because of the calamity that is coming to us if this plant closes. We need a soft pillow to land on. There is contract law we cannot get out of. There are families with budgets that they cannot pay for medical expenses right now, let alone electric rate increase. And then there's the issue of energy rates or energy production in the first place. None of these issues have been solved. And at this table, we have no control over any of this. So the fact that the letter says that we do support CEJA, we do. There's no question. We all think that this was a crappy deal and we want out of it. However, if you guys are going to close it on us, you need to take these things into consideration. The city cannot support a closure unless our concerns are addressed. It's a very soft way of saying it, but we do support the closure, and I can face my neighbors, but I cannot face them tomorrow if the decision is made without us and if we don't ask for some help. That's how I go to bed tonight and how I wake up tomorrow and answer my neighbors.
Yes, well said, Dan.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to act
Tony
on this.
Millay has his hand up.
Alderman Millay?
Yes, thank you. I totally support, Dan, what you just said. I agree with you. And I would just like to remind everyone that the legislative session ends 2 weeks from today. Time is of the essence here. We know how Springfield operates at the end of a session. So I support this letter.
Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll then on the motion to approve the letter with the alterations that have been anointed.
Solfa.
Aye.
Lehman.
Aye.
Ayazi.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
Vogelsinger.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Beck.
No.
Knopf.
Aye.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Barron.
Aye.
So that vote is 13 yes, 1 no. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, motion's approved. All right, moving to 17, the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things that I would like to share with everyone. While there's a lot of gloom and doom in the news about retail across the country, really in the world because of changing markets, the city of Batavia is very fortunate. We've got two of our largest retailers are doing additional renovations. We've got Menards, who their project has been going for some time, but they've got the detention underway and also the building expansion. But we also just received a building permit from Target, who you might recall just a couple of years ago did some interior renovations, and now we've received a building permit that they're going to be doing additional renovations at that location. So we're really, really happy to hear about that. With regard to that Menards construction that's going to be going on, we ask for the public's patience because you are going to see some lane closures happening on McKee Street because the detention comes across from the north to the south, and then in the overflow situation flows back up to the north. And so we've got some directional boring going on under the street that may require us to close traffic down for a little bit. We'll try to make that as least obstructive as possible. We also have construction going on in the area of the Ward 1 storm sewer improvements. It's a multi-year project that's been going on, and so we've got some construction going on out there as well. I have a request from our park district that I wanted to bring up with City Council, just something to think about. They have asked that since they are going to be putting up a perimeter fence for their concerts out at Peg Bond Center this year, because they are going to be charging an admission price of
Not
$10.
It's done.
As of today.
I'm sorry?
As of today, they announced they're not charging for their concerts.
Okay. If they are still intending to serve alcohol at the concerts, they were going to be putting up a perimeter fence and had requested of City Council if they would mind if that perimeter fence stayed up so that they didn't have to, for every week's concert, put it up and take it down, which requires several hours of work. And so they asked that you consider that, so maybe you could think on it, and maybe we'll bring it up at our next committee of the whole meeting, which is on May 25th.
Laura, would that be for the whole season? Because I know there's
Yes.
a couple dates where it's not every week, like they skip some time.
The
And they would
request was
still
for the
keep it
whole
up.
season.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And
Laura?
then it would make it easier for them to set up too when they did Windmill City Festival. There was another question?
Laura?
Yes.
The construction out at Menards out there for that,
Mhm.
are the other pads, are they doing any of the other work out there for the development that was gonna go in out there?
The development that we are expecting to the south of those, is
Mhm.
that your?
Right, is that gonna
We
be-
have not yet received the application for that, but we're
Okay.
expecting it imminently,
Okay.
which is really exciting. I
Right, that-
absolutely cannot wait to
'Cause
share
I know the-
news of that, but it's at
The
this
social
point.
media buzz of, where, is that gonna be the latest mattress store, or the mattress store world headquarters, whatever the jokes are.
Right.
It's just, it would be nice to be able to go public with the rest of the stuff that's going on out there, because there are other things that are happening.
Mhm.
And more construction that's happening out there on Randall Road.
Honestly, we were expecting it by the end of last week, and so it could be any day now is when we're expecting that, and we'll look forward to being able to make that announcement to everybody. We're in touch with Colony. They expect to put the rental bikes out here. Our bike share program is starting up again this year, and Colony should be delivering the bikes this week. Let me see, anything else? I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I don't have anything written. Oh, there is one more thing that I'd like to share. And this is something that the police department has been working on with the Association for Individual Development. As you know, they partner with us for victim services and also critical incidents. And in addition to that, we are close to getting agreement with them for a social worker to be on site one day per week. They have already set up a contract with our neighbors to the north to be at their location one day a week. And so the idea is to have somebody who on successive days is here in the Tri-Cities area to be available for those types of resources that come up in certain situations that the police department is dealing with. We've had an excellent relationship with the Association for Individual Development. I think that the city of Batavia might have been one of their very first police organizations that they had a contract with. And so when we finally solidify the plans for that, we'll make an announcement. And that's all that I have. Alderman Barron.
I just have a question regarding that. Obviously, it's probably a close by community from us, just north of us, correct?
Yes.
So, they're going to be there one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
Should we have something major that happens, is the agreement going to be like, we need a social worker now? Will they be able to come and service us on that day? Vice versa, if Geneva were to have something major happen?
Our contract with them is 24/7, 365. So it is exactly those type of incidents that you're talking about that our other contract, which is already in place, would cover those. This is sort of an enhancement to that and to address the ongoing really the mental health crisis that we see going on in our communities, to have somebody available to address those issues kind of as they come up in the ordinary course. Whereas an incident that were to arise that's of a more emergency nature, we would use that on demand, and they have an immediate response. And I would ask Chief, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's essentially correct. We're not limited all our access to social service workers. Really, essentially, expansion current relationship with AI. So one day a week, I think we're targeting for Thursday right now because that's a heavy staff day. Be able to interface with our officers, do roll call briefing, training, sorts of things. Also, when they're not busy doing follow-up or case investigation, maybe ride-alongs with our officers and potentially I've always said that this is something the AID, the services that they've provided over the years for our department and for our residents, I think is one of the really great things that happens in this community. And any expansion of that service or any enhancement, especially, if it's anything to help our officers or to help the community out with, if you look at your email that we get on an almost daily basis, the amount of mental services calls that are in those just keeps exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's something that we can't ignore. And I'm really glad to see that this is an enhancement that's happening because I think it's really important. We have these guys out there, women out there every day that have to deal with this. And it's not an easy thing to do. And so I'm really glad to see that there is additional services that are available and that, hopefully we can integrate this in because I think it's something you're going to see changes, in police forces. I see 5-10 years from now where there's going to be somebody on staff probably that does this, or a really enhanced contract that's somebody that's there all the time, because it's going to be that important. Have somebody there, because the crew can't handle everything, and this is an important thing that has to be there. I'm glad to see that.
You're still on.
I'm done.
All right, committee reports, community development. Do we have anything under community?
No, I don't think we have anything on. We don't have a committee meeting tomorrow night. We're having the special meeting with the Park District.
Right, on the 25th, we will be discussing the peddlers, solicitors, and food vendors ordinance.
Government Services Committee,
No report, Your Honor.
Public Utilities,
Nothing to report, Your Honor.
and I'm having a brain block here. We have one more.
City
City Services.
Yeah, I don't believe there's anything to report at this time.
You guys all got these new faces on these committees.
We're all
losing
mad.
track of them here. All right, we have any other business?
Your Honor?
Alderman
The 14-year-old boy in me who just earned his Eagle Scout badge wanted a point of order on item number 2 on tonight's agenda. According to the U.S. Department of Defense website and the U.S. National Flag Code of 1942, while the plaque that is behind me is gorgeous, we should be facing that flag behind you when we say the
I knew somebody was going to bring that up at some point.
So I would just like to say that it's my fault that everyone's eyes naturally gravitate to that corner because it was the home of that flag for many, many years. So we'll get the room back arranged to
The
its
highest flag
ordinary.
in this room is the appropriate flag.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Barron?
Just so, this is going to be going on until it happens. Any update on garbage stickers being available on the east side?
It's an everyday issue, Alderman Barron. Really, Scott Haynes is working very hard with not Advanced. Who is it now?
Waste management.
Waste management. They're working very hard. One of the things that we ran into is our contract only provides for a 2% administrative fee that can be charged by a retailer, and the credit card companies charge 4%. So if a customer comes in and purchases stickers with a credit card, that retailer is actually losing money on that transaction. So that is another reason why.
Why did it all of a sudden become a concern then?
I'm sorry?
Why did it all of a sudden become a concern?
I don't know why all of a sudden it became a concern, but that was the reason given to us why that particular retail location would not begin selling the stickers, given that the 7-Eleven and the Walgreens have stopped selling it.
I think we need to
One due to ownership change, and Walgreens due to their own internal computer systems somehow are not amenable to that transaction anymore.
I think we need to issue a challenge like to the robotics club or computer club in town to invent a vending machine for the stickers for that. Because to me, that should be so simple.
Agreed.
Put them in a vending machine, you got a roll of 5,000
Right.
in it, and the thing just, takes your money, whether it's credit card or cash, and spits the stickers out.
Yeah, put it next to the utility billing
Put it outside the door here.
mailbox.
Put one in somebody's.
Anyone out there? Invention?
They sell stamps that way at the post office.
Yeah.
So the problem that we've identified, it's a combination of the new owner and then also these companies.
It's not really the new owner. It's retail establishments either deciding they're not going to sell the stickers anymore, or there is some technical glitch in the case of Walgreens that they have not yet overcome, but don't seem to be super motivated to figure out Batavia garbage stickers.
Okay. That's
But
not
we
helpful.
are that proverbial water drip, 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 dripping to make sure that it gets addressed. So we do continue to contact them like on a daily basis.
Can you purchase them at the waste management office out
Yes.
there?
You
See
can
that?
even call and do the transaction over the phone with
And
your
then just
credit
pick
card,
'em
and
up.
then they send them to you in the mail. It just takes longer.
See, I think we should send like 500 people there in a week, and then they'll figure a way to get the stickers out.
It's a pretty hard place to find.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing, is I think that becomes a real, not an easy thing to do to get people
No.
out there.
I have one
Alderman
last question.
Stone?
Yes.
I got this invite in the mail to the IMEA virtual annual conference. You know, is anybody
Gary
attending
Holm
that?
will be attending both days.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. And I would encourage, speaking of invitations, if anybody is not signed up for the Inspire Awards, that is this Thursday. And a number of our businesses are being recognized for their expansion and their new build-outs, as well as a category for a Green Oli Award as well, and Green Seed Packaging, who came here to speak last year, is receiving that award, as well as our Citizen of the Year, and then Organization of the Year, and Community Inspire Award. So lots of things to celebrate.
Anybody else?
I have two.
Alderman
things.
Miller?
I wanted to ask that at some point we continue the conversation with, now that the letter's done with, to the legislation, but continue the conversation about what Abby's concerns are, what my concerns are, also about moving towards what do we do after all of this is approved, so that we have a plan for it to happen. I'm not talking about discussing it tonight, I'm not talking about discussing it, but we do need to discuss those things so that we are ready with some sort of plan to move forward in a committee. The second thing is, I wanted to talk about was, I think it was last week, the police department had two officers that put on full display their training and their wonderful community policing to help an individual who is having a mental issue crisis. That it goes to show that our police department is something that has wonderful, great officers led by wonderful leadership in Chief Yule back here, and also his partners. That it is something that I've always said our police department is one that we could put forth as a model for other departments around the country to model for what police departments should be doing in their communities. So thank you, Chief.
Anybody else? Okay, under my report, I just want to share that Laura and I have had several conversations the last couple of weeks, and I think we're going to plan to come to a committee meeting sometime within the next few weeks, and get a consensus from the council as to where we want to go with what I will describe as the generosity of the city government. Because in my many years here, I have never, ever seen the line at the door, like we now have here now, of businesses wanting the city to come in and give them a grant, a loan. I mean, I think there's a trend that probably began in Washington, where suddenly the government's now divvying out all this money to everybody. So everybody thinks, well, we need to get in line at any government we can. And I don't know if we want to name all the stuff that's lining up here, but I mean, we've got huge amounts of money that are being asked for that I don't know. First of all, I don't know where we're going to necessarily get the money. Everybody seems to think that this CARES money that's coming at the cities is some big pot of gold that everybody can come and get their hands on. And I think we probably have a pretty good, Laura and her team have got a pretty good idea as to what we're going to do with that money, but I think we should be sharing it with you guys as to, how quickly that money is going to disappear. On the state level, there's a big concern because the Illinois General Assembly is down there, and the whispers, so we are told, is, well, gee, all the cities and villages are getting all this CARES money, so we, the state now, can keep the local government distributing fund money that they normally get on an annual basis because they're getting this new pot of money. So I was on a call last week with some of the other mayors who were asking the question, okay, if we do this now, where are we going to get the money in 2 years when we're being told we're going to get 2 CARES grants, one this year and one next year, but on the year 3, are you going to return to us the local government distributing fund? And it doesn't seem like the state legislature even understands that or wants to talk about it. So, I mean, there's some situations here, unlike somebody who's been here for 40 years like I have, that I've never seen or had to deal with before. And I think that this is under the definition, and you've all heard me say this is a strong city council, weak mayor form of government, and I'm just here with my big mouth shooting it off, and I don't vote, as you all know, unless 7 of you go one way and 7 of you go the other. And that's fine, but I mean, you're the ones that really have the control and the power in the city. The 14 of you really do have it. And so we got to incite you as to what's really happening here, because not only do we have businesses, but we got a whole bunch of other groups that seem to think now the city's going to start writing checks and support this or that activity or whatever have you. And, you know, I think we got to know what we're doing, how we're going to plan this thing out. This is a very challenging moment, unlike anything I've ever seen before, as far as how we're going to, you know, what we are going to fund and what we aren't, and can we or could we or whatever. There's some big questions. And, you know, I've watched with great interest the conversation you've had the last few weeks over the whole Prairie State thing, and that's needed to be discussed, and I'm proud of you with the decision I think you made. But I think we're in for some more discussions, probably the length of what you've been through over that one, about this other stuff, about who's going to get the money, are we giving any money, are we, you know, there's just a lot of technicality to this whole thing. So any of you who just joined, you really got yourself into some long meetings here in the very near future, because there's a lot to be talked about, and most of it is very important stuff, and it's all about the future of Batavia and how we want to do it and how we're not going to do it. And so there's going to be some very interesting moments here in the very near future. So
That's one of the things I think is interesting with the state is they went out and borrowed all kinds of money last year to use for stimulus money or to do things within the state during COVID. And then they thought that the federal money that they were going to get was going to pay off all those debts. The federal will not let them spend that money on the debt they incurred last year.
Right.
And so that's why they're coming after us.
Right.
Because that's money that they figure they can take.
So I don't know where this is all going. We think we've been in Springfield about the Prairie State. I got to believe we're going to have another big one very quickly here about where they're going with the local government distributing fund.
That's where I think we need to work with the public and get the public in behind us on that, because it's their money that needs to stay here and not just get wasted by the state.
So it's going to be some intense moments here ahead. This is not going to be a quiet year. So welcome to city government, those of you who just got it. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Abby.
Moved
Beck.
by Wolf, second by Beck for adjournment. Clerk, take a voice vote.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.